The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. One of our favorite guests, and we've had, of course, some amazing names, but Derek Haas, American writer, producer, Baylor alum, loves Baylor athletics, Chicago, everything imaginable on television, joins us now on SicEm365 Radio. Paul Catalina, Craig, and David Smoak. How you been, Derek?
Thank you guys for having me again. I'm thinking, as well as anybody else over this crazy year.
Yeah, it's been that way, and I think you're now, I don't know, I'm not saying you're in a downtime, but when we contacted you earlier last year, obviously you have your times when you're doing much more than others, your shoots or whatever. Where are you now as far as, is everything kind of put to bed, so to speak?
No, we're in the middle of the season. You guys reached out in September, and we were just getting up and running for the new season. Usually we start in July, but because of the pandemic, we started later. And it's those first couple of episodes are really, crunch time for us. But now the machine is running.
Okay, I was looking on your IMDb page to see what you had coming up, and you've got all these things in development. It made me wonder, what is harder? Tom Brady's been to 10 Super Bowls now, or is it getting a movie written and made before you leave this mortal coil?
We always laugh because we make these seasons of television in the same amount of time. We've made 2 seasons, and it's still trying to get a movie going. I don't know why movies take so long, but yeah, I think Tom Brady getting to 10 Super Bowls is never going to happen again. So I'm still hoping a movie might happen.
When you started, the whole Chicago universe, so to speak, right. I mean, did you have plans of it expanding and growing into other things, or was that just a byproduct of success?
No, the first season when we started the fire department show, Chicago Fire, one of the things we found out in our research was that firefighters and police officers don't get along too well. They like to, they both like to claim they're the toughest and the bravest and all that. So we put a police officer character, detective, into the first season as kind of an enemy of our main character, Casey. That character, Voight, was so compelling that we just kept bringing him around in the first season. And then Dick Wolf, about 20 episodes in, was like, why don't we spin him off into his own show and we could do Chicago PD? And then he just was like a dog with a bone and just kept expanding.
Is he out of all the characters, out of all the people, is he the number one that moves the needle?
Oh, I think on our show, because I work primarily on Fire, Kelly Severide, played by Taylor Kinney, seems to be pretty popular. But yeah, Voight is his own thing. He's got his fans and his detractors. But no, he's really fun to write. I'll say that.
When you're having to do the crossovers, how difficult is that? Because when you do one of those, you're not working on the one show all the time. You're working mostly on Fire, and you got to go to the PD people. How is it to get those going?
Yeah, they're not easy. They're really complicated because we end up shooting them over almost like what would it take up 3 episodes, because we have to stagger the productions because so many characters from each show are on the other show. And so we might be shooting part 1 week on the med set, and then part 2 the next week on the Fire set, and so on. And it's just this constant jigsaw puzzle that you have to put together. I'm trying to, not to mention just making the story work over 3 episodes, but then actually producing it is a gigantic undertaking.
Derek, a football coach during the game or when they prepare for a game, like Andy Reid and obviously coming up this week, they have to look ahead, well ahead. Did they start as someone who writes and is involved in what you are with as many shows, how many shows ahead do you have to be?
We're usually half a season. Yeah, half a season is what, at the beginning of the year, we call it breaking, half a season, meaning all the storylines for 8 or 9 episodes. And then we go out and pitch to the network. here's what we plan on doing. And I go through details. This is episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. And then when we're about halfway through that, we start breaking the second half of the year. Now, we always have to be light on our feet because things happen. An actor we thought was going to pop doesn't pop. We had a girlfriend's character who was going to come on, but she wasn't very good. Or conversely, somebody comes on and they're awesome. And so we'll be like, oh, why don't we add another 3 episodes of this character? So it's a dance, but I'd say half a season ahead.
How much do you know how a season's going to, at least a general amount of, we're starting here and 20 episodes or so down the line, this is around where I want it to end?
I think around Christmas time, we start planning May. So we kind of work up to a big winter finale. And then after we hit the winter finale, then we start thinking, okay, what could be the big season finale? And a lot of times that's, it's going to take a lot of thought because you're almost setting up your next season's first episode. So it takes a lot of energy.
What keeps your creativity flowing?
Hearing stories of firefighters. We have a great consultant and a retired fire chief, and then we have a great paramedic consultant, and then we do ride-alongs with the fire department. And if you go talk to any firefighter, if you just had lunch with any firefighter, you'd hear 30 great stories that would make great episodes. And you really want to honor these guys who do put their lives at risk every day, and clean up a big city like Chicago. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. But I was going to ask you, you want to honor them, and do most firefighters, medical personnel, those in the profession, love that you spotlight them? Do they all like the fact that they're being, in a way, spotlighted with the TV series?
I hope so. I mean, the ones who talk to me seem to really like it, and I'll get letters or emails from firefighters who say a particular episode hit really close to home. And I guess the ones who don't like it don't tell me. So that's good.
That's very considerate of them in the Twitterverse now. Where
yeah, no kidding.
Well, the one thing we always hear is, if you're actually in a fire, it's so smoky that you wouldn't be able to see anything. And so it's not realistic when we have, firefighters. And I'm like, well, a dark screen for 5 minutes isn't going to really be too exciting. So we have to take some liberties.
Derek Haas with us, Baylor graduate with us on SicEm365 Radio.
Would you ever want to do another Western? I caught 310 to Yuma a couple months ago again, and you guys did such a great job with that one.
Yeah, I love Westerns. I grew up on them. My dad was a big Western watcher. Outlaw Josie Wales. I could probably quote every line from that movie. So yes, absolutely. I would love to do another one, or maybe a Western TV show at some point. I love the genre, and there's so many great epic ones.
What's more complicated, shooting a movie or shooting a TV series that has as many, obviously, episodes as these have?
Yeah, the main difference is with a movie, it's like a circus. It's coming to town and then it's leaving. And so, you have to forge these really strong relationships in a very short amount of time and build trust. But you also know that there's an end date. And so if I don't get along with this particular piece of talent, I know that I just have to get through so many days. And with a TV show, it's this ongoing, it's almost like a real work environment where I've got to have long-term relationships with all of these people and build trust over years as opposed to months. But they're both uniquely challenging. I think TV is getting more and more to be like movies. You have these giant, budgets now that it used to be such a difference between TV and movies, and it's not as much anymore.
A little bit later on, Paul has a request for you to kind of jog your memory, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Derek Haas with us on SicEm365 Radio. You love what you see with Baylor athletics. We saw the run they made, winning Big 12 titles in football. Then they had to come back from that. Eventually, what Matt Rule did last year at one point, unbeaten, and now under the first year of Dave Aranda, Scott Drew, Kim Mulkey, what they're doing with baseball. Your thoughts about where your alma mater is when it comes to athletics and the success they're enjoying?
Well, I couldn't be happier with Scott Drew and the basketball team. Oh my gosh, undefeated. The team looks incredible. I wish that Gonzaga game would have happened so we would have a definitive number one, because I really think we're going to beat them. We have the best guards in the country, and even the best guards coming off the bench are better than other teams' starters. With football, it was such a weird year because of the COVID and the games missed. It was hard to even understand where we were. I know everybody was disappointed in the win-loss record. I saw a lot of good things, and hopefully next year they'll put it together. But I find it very hard to judge the football team based on what happened in terms of, scheduling. Do
you schedule shoots sometimes around sports? Can you do that?
Well, what's funny? The Transpo drivers. So when you work on a TV show, you have these union guys who drive you around. They drive to the sets because they don't want you driving all over Chicago. And my main Transpo driver was this kid, Jimmy, who's big into sports. And he would just plan out the lunch for whatever. If we were shooting, we would end up at a sports bar, especially if there was a Baylor game. And he would call ahead to make sure that the sports bar had the Baylor games on while we were shooting.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So would you say, Derek, where is Hollywood, the entertainment industry, as far as, that word normal, that's not what it used to mean really, but where would you say the entertainment industry is as far as getting back to regularity?
I think everybody's eyes are on late summer for the vaccines being, distributed enough that people can get back to normal. I think that's pretty much true for most of America. We've been doing an enormous amount of testing of our actors and our key crew that are on set every day. And I don't think that's going to stop this season. So I think hopefully by next season it gets back to normal. I will say it's funny because when you've been in LA as long as I have, and then you go somewhere else and you hear things about Hollywood, and it's like, because it gets in political and people say, oh, those Hollywood lefties or whatever. And I think you guys would be impressed if you ever worked on a show with how much the actual people who do the jobs and are working are so much more just everyday American, people. That was more than you asked for, but I was just thinking about that.
No, I think that's great. I think that's great insight because, people see maybe the stars and the faces and think that, it's a certain way, but there's a lot of other people behind the scenes, as you mentioned, that are doing work as well.
Exactly.
All right, Derek, you had, and this is years ago, we were at the draft in Chicago, and you made this offer, and we haven't taken you up on it yet, but I will be the one when we finally do it to be an extra dead in a ditch with a hooker and a gun. I do have a quick elevator pitch for you, and feel free to say no. But I asked you about the crossovers earlier. I would be I could be the carcass that sets off the thing. So, you find me in the ditch, the fire department finds me in the ditch, outside a burnt building. And then they turn it over to the PD and they start asking questions. They go to the hospital. They're like, this guy was in here with his hooker, meth out of his gourd.
And that's the kickoff.
That's the kickoff.
This is going.
Yeah, I think
I see where this is going.
I have enough improv experience to where I could do one of those things where I'm just yelling, without audio, like, oh my God, that was him. I could roll with it.
I had this idea that maybe we could kick off a crossover with the giant. They have all these bridges in Chicago. And I was like, what if we were on the bridge and then the bridge sort of, there was some collapse of a bridge. Maybe you could be in that lead car.
Yeah.
You're just enjoying yourself listening to a game on the radio. And then all of a sudden, I need to see some video audition of this, though.
Okay. Yeah.
Go out to your car and video yourself. Pretend that the bridge is collapsing, and let me see it.
Okay.
Well, right across the street. We're in a brand new studio.
We got cameras right all around us, too.
Derek, we're right across. We're like less than a mile down the road on MLK from McLean Stadium in an area that's being completely renovated, as you could imagine, Waco.
Okay.
Right next to the Washington Avenue Bridge. We are within maybe a lob wedge of the Brazos. So, Paul, we got that done.
Armstrong, our producer, I'll have him film it.
God.
Yeah, go shoot this and post it online so everyone can see it. And then I'll let you know.
All right.
Hey.
And if I just have to be a dead body, then I just have to be a dead body. That's fine.
Yeah, look, we can adjust. Like I said, we're light on our feet.
As you just text me, Derek, I will give him the wrong number. I'll give him.
Yeah.
Oh my! How you mentioned how you were delayed a couple of months because of COVID.
Yeah.
How you have so many people doing whatever you do around a set or where you are filming something, has that been affected by where we are today? We lose him.
Derek, you there?
Nope, looks like we lost him.
I mean, he's on the phone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that was a connection. We'll
call
try to
back
get
on?
him. Yeah, we have Moon Urson, Baylor senior guard. Well, I'm just curious about that because you have a lot of people. You know, you have production and you have audio and you have video and you have actors and actresses.
He was talking about all the testing they're doing and said they're doing that and that's going to continue on. So that's part of it, but I think we got him back on.
Derek, I know you got.
Sorry about that.
You mentioned how you were delayed a couple of months because of where we are with the pandemic and COVID, and you mentioned the testing, but how about the spacing or how it affects what you guys are doing when it comes to on set for the TV or anything else? Has that been somewhat normal?
Yeah, we tried to write so that the audience wouldn't know what we were doing behind the scenes. So in a typical fire scene that we would have, we might have, 15 actors running into a burning building. And then what we did was we were like, okay, truck, you park around back, squad, you go in the front, and we'll meet in the middle. And so the audience watching doesn't realize, we only have 4 actors there, and the other 4 are shooting on a different day. So we haven't done the big 20-person scenes that we normally would, but I think if you watch the show, you wouldn't notice.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so, hey, man, we appreciate it. You have a Super Bowl pick by any chance? Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes against Tom Brady, and now Tampa Bay?
Yeah, my brother lives in Kansas City, so I gotta pull for the Chiefs. I was really hoping the Bills. I just really liked the Bills team this year, so I was kind of hoping they were going to win. But I think the best 2 teams ended up in the Super Bowl. Maybe the Packers would disagree.
I have never asked you this question, and if I have, I apologize. How did this become your love? How did this? You mentioned your father and some of the things you watch with some of the movies, but how did this get in your blood?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a writer, and my dad would leave books lying around and Stephen King books when I was a kid. And I read, before I read Stephen King, I was reading, Jimmy Wins the Football Trophy or whatever. And then I read these books, and it was, my eyes just opened, and it just became something I wanted to create stories like that. And then I always loved movies, so that was a natural fall.
I'm a huge Stephen King fan myself. Is there something that you would like to adapt of his or work on?
Oh man, there's been so many good ones. I love The Stand, so I was curious to see how that one would turn out. I've only seen the first couple of episodes, but my favorite one from when I was a kid was this book, The Body, that became a movie, Stand By Me. And it was the first time I had seen kids written like kids actually talked. And so I don't know. That's a great question. I'm trying to think of like one of the more recent ones, but they all get adapted. They're Stephen King books.
Yeah.
Derek, thank you very much. Whenever you've always been so good when you respond. We appreciate you being a part of the show. Glad everything's off to a great start with what's happening with your series and all of them along the way. You've done an incredible job. I know Baylor's proud as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait to see this audition.
Oh, I'm geared up. I just got to get into character a little bit, and then I'll be fine.
Does it need to be raining or anything?
No.
Derek Haas.
I think it's going to be all in the performance.
Okay. All right. Okay. That'll never, ever air. Thank you very much, Derek Haas. Paul, the pressure's on you. Derek Haas, American writer, producer, Baylor alum. Man, he's always been so gracious. Appreciate his time. Always liked something a little bit different. And obviously his love of Baylor and athletics, but also what he does. Those series have all they gotten popular. I mean, it was Chicago Fire.
Well, they're like 9 seasons deep, right?
Yeah, one of them is.
So, I mean, gosh,
one of them is 8, one of them 6, Chicago Med.
He wrote Too Fast, Too Furious
Yeah.
I mean, so he's been in the game for a bit. I mean, they're on the 9th. I mean, it hasn't come out yet, but they're on the 9th movie of that series.
He